Welcome to another one of our student ministry lesson videos. So throughout this series that we've been in, Lost and Found, we've been looking at one chapter of the Bible, Luke 15. And in this chapter, Jesus tells a series of stories to help the religious leaders of the day, who are called Pharisees, see how wrong they were about themselves, others, and God. Well, Jesus told a story about a son who selfishly left his family and lost all of his money, and who wasn't worthy to come home, but was welcomed home again by his father anyway. And that's the story we talked about last week, and we read most of it, but we're not finished with it just yet. So when we think about church and we talk about people being lost, we often think about people who don't know Jesus, who don't have a relationship with him yet. But today we're going to discover that the people that Jesus called lost aren't always the people we might expect. Well, like we talked about last week, one thing we can learn from this story of the son who ran away and is welcomed home is that Jesus always welcomes us back, no matter how far we wander from him. And I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing the Pharisees thought that was the end of the story, that Jesus welcomes us back. And so at this point, they're probably thinking, okay, Jesus, we get it. God loves everyone. He's happy when the lost sheep and the lost coin and the lost son come home. Got it. You can stop with the stories now. But Jesus's story had a final ending, a twist, because Jesus's goal was to help the Pharisees have compassion for lost people, but also see how they were also lost. So we're going to jump back into the story in verse 25. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. Well, what do you think the older brother did next? Well, let's see how the older brother responded to his younger brother's return. Going in verse 28. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. My son, the father said, you are always with me and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. As you guys can see, the father's response to the younger brother coming home deeply upset this older brother. The older brother was bitter. He felt like he'd earned his father's love, that he'd worked for and he deserved it, and that his rebellious and untrustworthy little brother didn't deserve it. But by asking his son to join the party, the father gave him a chance to choose a different path. Well, Jesus knew that the Pharisees, they would think that the younger brother in this story was the lost son. But Jesus needed them and us to see that both brothers were actually lost in different ways. And the story ends. And Jesus never tells us if the older brother decided to join his father's party or if he stayed outside and threw himself a pity party. All we know is that he was invited. And that's the point. Jesus didn't give the Pharisees an ending because this story is an invitation. With this series of stories, Jesus is asking Pharisees and us, what will you do? Will you stay outside or will you join the party? I think we know that we are all a mess. We're all broken, right? We know about sin. And none of us can earn God's love, but Jesus came to save us anyway. And just as the father welcomed his youngest son home, Jesus welcomes us. And just as the father invited his oldest son to join the party, Jesus is inviting us to join the party. Now, how are we going to respond? And that's where after these stories, we're left with, we have to make a decision. Whichever brother we are like, we have a decision to make, to become part of God's family either way, and to say yes to following Jesus, whether that's the first time or we're welcomed back and invited to the party.